Explain like I'm 5. Why do you use they for non-gendered speech instead of it? I'm not a native speaker. But as far as I understood, for singular objects and animals it was used. Why use they for individual people then? It can be seen as less than a person because of precisely what you said about it being used to talk about singular objects and animals. Many people like to distinguish themselves from non-human things, and so wish to use a more unique pronoun. They is also already a part of English. So using they as a new non-gendered pronoun is not culturally a big stretch. Edit as I've learned through the comments. The usage of they in a non-gendered context is not new and has historical precedent. It is considered very offensive because it is only used to refer to things that are not people, like animals or objects. By calling a person it, you're essentially saying that they're not a person. They're an object or an animal. And obviously that's very offensive. The word they has always been gender agnostic in the singular form and was used when gender was uncertain. E.g., a robber broke into the community hall last night. They stole the microwave and $50 cash. The current use of they to respect people who consider themselves ungendered is just an extension of that. It generally refers to something inanimate or, at least, a lower form of life, animals, bugs, etc. In the last few decades it was used somewhat derisively to refer to crossdressers, trans people. But, due to the association with less than human, that mostly fell out of favor. As a rule, if you'd say something it's an it. If you'd say someone it's a they. Advanced level of course. Here, when I said it's, it wasn't referring to the someone, it was referring to the word, which is an elided subject. English is hell. Using it is seen as demeaning. You said yourself that it's for objects and animals. So using this for a person equates them with one of those. The singular they is gender neutral and respective of a person's humanity. In my opinion, it can be slightly confusing because it also refers to a group of people and or other things. But it's the best we've got for now. I have a question. If using they in a singular manner, referring to a single person, would it be appropriate to say, they is going to the store, or they are going to the store? I'm genuinely unsure. Some people do use its pronouns, but that's much rarer than they them, and unless you've been asked to use them, many people consider it dehumanizing language. As a non-native English speaker, isn't it still used as a pronoun for people? Here are some examples I can think of. You had a baby. Is it a boy or a girl? Someone is on the other side of the door, but I don't know who it is. I've examined the evidence to determine the real monster. It is Dr. Frankenstein. You're from Spain, right? Same reason y'all use el mismo over there. Just like la sounds more like a person than lo. They sounds more like a person than it. It just sounds dehumanizing for me because the only times I've heard someone being called it is with people who think the person being called it is a lesser being. Because grammatically they has been a correct term for a singular person longer than the word you has, since the 1300s. And because non-binary people are not objects or animals. They are people. Edit. Apparently my comment was auto-removed by a bot because sin begins when you treat a person as a thing. Wasn't descriptive enough. I think the bot just hates Terry Pratchett. Anyways. Bigots love to dehumanizing and reduce people they don't like to an object. People have used it to refer to transgender people because they hate them and want other people to not think of them as human. We had a party last night. While cleaning up, I have found a lost cell phone. I hope they call so I figure out who it is. We use they often to represent a singular person without realizing it. I've generally used they because it implies an unspecified person persons while it is more often used for things like inanimate objects or non-humans. I suppose grammatically it would be correct to refer to a singular person as an it, but I was raised to think that was rude, because it feels very dehumanizing for a lot of people. Some people do use its pronouns, but they them is a lot more common. This is a common misconception. They has been used for singular for decades, if not longer. For example, Mom, hey Cynthia, did anyone deliver a package this morning? Cynthia, they were here earlier but I missed them. Cynthia doesn't know if it was a man or woman, so they and them is used. They wouldn't say it because they are people, not objects or animals. Also because they wasn't just invented for non-gendered speech. Singular they has been a part of the English language forever. Though usually for unspecified people someone has left their umbrella. I hope they aren't missing it. I'm also a non-native speaker, and I use they for myself. So I figured I'd also chime in. It is not used in reference to human beings. It is considered dehumanizing to use it when referring to a person in English. They has a history of being used to refer to people of indeterminate gender. And so some humans who reject binary gender and or gendered language use they to refer to, well, ourselves. Hope that helps. In some languages, it is a fairly standard pronoun. In Finnish, the pronoun it is not uncommon. However, in English we have been taught that it is for animals and inanimate objects. So to some it sounds rude, and they is someone's preference. So to be respected. Why do people call baby it then? I am a teacher of English as a foreign language, and after years of trying to get people to get their grammar correctly, I can't even begin to describe how much this irks me. If they want a neutral pronoun that doesn't also mean table, I'm all for te, or t or ir, or whatever they want, but they are for a singular is uk. Because they has been used as a genderless third-person singular for hundreds of years. It isn't genderless. Its gender is neuter. They is actually genderless, both for singular and plural use. In English, it is specifically used for non-human things. To use it implies that the thing being referenced is not a person. Using it in reference to a person is a form of dehumanizing that person, indicating that they are a thing like a park bench and not a person like you and me. It's perceived as more respectful. Politeness in linguistics is an interesting phenomenon. Across different languages, you find that politeness is usually associated with distancing, e.g., saying something like the gentleman instead of you, which is a pattern used in many, as well as more effort on the speaker's side using longer, more tedious constructions and forms. Add to this that it in English is associated with lower animates and inanimate objects. And it all clicks together. Because that is just how the language always worked. A customer was looking for you. Oh, where did they go? As you see, if you look at normal parlance, we always use they for persons of which we don't know the gender yet. This whole idea that this is a new thing is just not true. It is an object. They are a person. That's really all there is to it. Bonus fun fact: singular they is older than singular you by a couple of centuries. You used to be strictly plural, that's why it always takes the plural form of the verb to be are. It is dehumanizing. They still gives the person a sense of humanity. If you don't believe me, read the book A Child Called It. Note: very triggering book for those who grew up in abusive conditions. They person. It object non-person. Technically it's just meant to be object. But a lot of people automatically go for it when speaking about animals since they're viewed as less intelligent in a human way, so it sorta means both.